As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, I set out on a solo hiking expedition to conquer the legendary Forgotten Mountain. The air was crisp, carrying the promise of adventure and the thrill of the unknown. Little did I know that the mountain secrets would soon envelop me in a bone-chilling nightmare. The trailhead greeted me with an air of desolation, as if warning me of the dangers that lurked ahead. Undeterred, I tightened the straps of my backpack, my heart racing with excitement. The stories whispered by the locals about the Forgotten Mountain only fueled my determination, and I was eager to uncover the truth behind the legends. The ascent began with ease as I traversed through a dense forest, the tall trees standing like ancient sentinels guarding the secrets of the mountain. The trail was well marked, and the sounds of nature provided a soothing backdrop to my journey. However, as the daylight waned, the forest's atmosphere shifted subtly, and a sense of unease crept into my bones. As I ventured deeper into the wilderness, the trail grew steeper, and the shadows lengthened around me. A strange stillness filled the air, and I felt as though I was being watched by unseen eyes. My heartbeat quickened, and I dismissed my apprehensions as mere figments of my imagination. The first night on the mountain arrived with a symphony of chilling sounds, branches creaking, the distant howl of a wolf, and a haunting wind that seemed to carry faint whispers. I huddled within my tent, seeking solace in the walls of nylon that separated me from the unknown. Sleep eluded me that night, and when dawn finally broke, I emerged from my tent with weary eyes. The beauty of the landscape contrasted sharply with the underlying sense of foreboding that clung to the mountain. Nevertheless, I pressed onward, determined to reach the summit and unravel the mysteries that awaited me. The trail now led through rugged terrain, and the path became increasingly treacherous. Yet I remained undeterred, my adrenaline fueling my ascent. It was during one particularly daunting stretch of the climb that I first encountered the peculiar markings. Etched into the rocks were symbols that seemed both ancient and otherworldly. Their meaning was lost to me, but their presence sent a shiver down my spine. I could not shake the feeling that I was trespassing in a realm beyond human comprehension. As I ascended further, the weather took a turn for the worse. The sky darkened, and a heavy fog rolled in, obscuring my vision. The biting cold seeped through my clothing, and the mountains seemed to resist my presence, as if guarding its secrets from intruders like me. The fog was disorienting, and I lost my sense of direction. Every step I took felt uncertain, and I had to rely on the faint traces of the trail to guide me forward. Panic threatened to consume me, but I clung to the hope that the fog would soon dissipate. Just as I began to contemplate turning back, the fog abruptly lifted, revealing an astonishing sight: the silhouette of an ancient temple nestled on a rocky ledge. It was an awe-inspiring and unsettling sight, as if the temple itself had been conjured from the mists of time. Curiosity urged me forward, and I cautiously approached the temple's entrance. A chill swept through me as I stepped inside, my senses immediately assaulted by an overpowering stench of decay. It was a place of utter desolation, its walls adorned with cryptic carvings and ominous symbols. As I explored the depths of the temple, an unsettling feeling of being watched engulfed me. My eyes were drawn to a series of inscriptions on the wall, a language unknown to me but evoking a sense of malevolence. My heart pounded, and I struggled to steady my breathing. In a dark corner of the temple, I discovered an artifact, an ancient, ornately decorated dagger. Its presence seemed to hum with energy, and I hesitated to touch it, fearing the consequences of meddling with such an object. With trepidation, I decided to leave the temple, eager to distance myself from its haunting aura. Yet as I stepped outside, the mountain unleashed a fury of wrath upon me. A torrential downpour erupted from the heavens, drenching me in seconds. Thunder roared, and lightning danced across the darkened sky. Trapped on the mountain in the midst of a violent storm, I sought shelter beneath a rocky overhang. Fear gnawed at my soul, and I wondered if the mountain itself was retaliating against my intrusion into its forbidden domain. The storm raged on, each lightning strike illuminating the temple in an eerie glow. My thoughts drifted to the dagger, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. Was it the key to the mountain's secrets? Or was it a harbinger of doom, With the storm finally abating, I continued my ascent, haunted by the temple's enigmatic aura. As I climbed higher, the mountain's terrain became increasingly unforgiving. The air grew thin and my steps faltered, but the call of the summit urged me forward. As I neared the peak, the temperature plummeted and the air grew heavy with an ominous silence. The world seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating something unnatural to unfold. It was then that I glimpsed a fleeting figure, a shadowy silhouette that danced on the edge of my vision. Determined to dismiss it as a mere trick of the light, I pressed on, my heart pounding with both exhaustion and unease. With each step, the mountain seemed to grow darker, the very essence of its existence shifting into a realm of malevolence. At last, I reached the summit, and a chilling stillness engulfed me. The world seemed to fall away beneath my feet, and I found myself standing on the precipice of an abyss. The figure I had glimpsed earlier materialized before me, an ethereal specter that exuded both sorrow and wrath. The specter beckoned me forward, and against my better judgment, I followed. It led me to the edge of the abyss, and with each step the ground beneath me crumbled, threatening to swallow me whole. Panic gripped me, but I was powerless to resist the pull of the mountain's dark allure. As I teetered on the edge, the specter's voice resonated in my mind, a lament of forgotten souls doomed to roam the mountain for eternity. It spoke of ancient rituals, vengeful spirits, and the relentless thirst for mortal souls. In that moment of terror and revelation, I understood the mountain's true nature. It was a place of malevolence, where the boundary between the living and the dead blurred. The forgotten mountain had devoured countless souls, and now it sought to claim mine. In a desperate bid for survival, I reached into my backpack, fingers trembling as I wrapped them around the ancient dagger's hilt. It pulsed with an unsettling energy, and as I raised it, a primal scream tore through the night. The mountain convulsed, and the specter dissipated into the darkness. With every ounce of strength, I hurled the dagger into the abyss, its glowing form casting an ethereal light upon the shadows. In a final act of defiance, I turned away from the mountain, determined to descend to safety. The journey down was treacherous, and the mountain seemed to resist my departure. But I persevered, fueled by the knowledge that my life depended on my escape. When I finally reached the trailhead, the sun's first light greeted me, as if welcoming me back to the realm of the living. Exhausted and shaken, I stumbled to my car, vowing never to return to the forgotten mountain. As I drove away, the mountain's chilling presence lingered in my mind, a haunting reminder of the malevolence I had encountered. The forgotten mountain had offered me a glimpse into a world beyond human comprehension, a realm of darkness and despair that would forever haunt my nightmares. Now, I've always been a fan of the great outdoors. There's nothing like pitching a tent under a starry sky and roasting marshmallows over a crackling campfire. But this particular trip took a turn for the eerie, and I'm still getting goosebumps just thinking about it. We set up camp in a secluded spot, far from any civilization. Just me, my buddy Mike, and our trusty tents. The night started innocently enough with laughter and s'mores galore, but as darkness fell, an unsettling feeling crept over us, like we were being watched by unseen eyes. Now, I'm not one to believe in ghosts or ghouls, but something about the atmosphere that night had us on edge. The forest seemed to come alive with strange rustling sounds, and the shadows danced around the campfire like mischievous spirits. As the night wore on, the campfire's warmth couldn't shake off the chill that hung in the air. We laughed nervously, trying to brush off the eerie vibe, but it was no use. The night seemed to stretch on forever, and sleep was nowhere in sight. Then, out of nowhere, came the sound of distant whispers. Mike and I exchanged puzzled glances, wondering if it was just our minds playing tricks on us. But the whispers grew louder, closer, until it felt like they were right on top of us. We nervously peered into the darkness, trying to make sense of the haunting voices. It was like a chorus of ethereal beings, calling out to us from some otherworldly realm. My heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't help but think we were about to be part of a real-life horror movie. As the whispers intensified, the fire seemed to dim, casting eerie shadows on the trees around us. That's when we heard the footsteps, soft, deliberate, and getting closer. I'll be honest, I was ready to bolt and leave everything behind, but Mike insisted we stay put. In a stroke of courage, or maybe just foolishness, we decided to follow the footsteps. Armed with nothing but our flashlights and heart palpitations, we ventured into the darkness. Every rustle of leaves sent shivers down my spine, and I half expected something out of a nightmare to jump out at us. The footsteps led us deeper into the woods, far from the safety of our campsite. It felt like we were in a trance, drawn to whatever awaited us in the dark. But just as we were about to turn back, we stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin, nothing short of a horror movie cliché. The cabin's warped door creaked open as if inviting us in, and against all better judgment, we entered. The air inside was heavy and stale, like it hadn't been disturbed in ages. As we shone our flashlights around, our beams fell upon old photographs and creepy dolls, their blank eyes staring into our souls. Then from the darkness emerged a figure, a pale, gaunt woman with long, tangled hair. My heart leaped into my throat, and I couldn't help but think of all the horror movies I'd ever seen. But this was no movie. This was real life, and we were right in the middle of it. The woman's voice was hauntingly soft as she spoke, as if she were a ghost recounting a tragic tale. She told us of a lost love, a broken heart, and the cabin that had become her prison. She spoke of a curse that bound her to these woods, and how she longed to be free. In that moment, fear melted into empathy, and we couldn't leave this tormented soul alone in her misery. We promised to find a way to break the curse, to release her from her eternal torment. With gratitude in her eyes, she disappeared into the darkness, leaving us to ponder the strange encounter. The next morning, we woke up to a bright sunrise and a campsite that seemed more serene than ever. Had it all been a dream? Or was it a glimpse into a supernatural world we couldn't explain? We may never know for sure, but one thing's for certain. Our camping trip will forever be etched in our memories as the night we crossed paths with the paranormal. And if you ever find yourself camping in the woods, remember to keep an eye out for things that go bump in the night. You never know what eerie encounters await you. As the full moon cast an eerie glow over the mansion, I approached the grand doors, my heart pounding with excitement and trepidation. The invitation to the exclusive midnight masquerade promised an unforgettable night, but little did I know that the horrors that awaited me within those opulent walls would haunt my dreams forever. The mansion loomed like a specter against the night sky, its dark silhouette exuding an aura of mystery. The air was thick with anticipation as masked guests glided through the grand entrance, each face obscured by an elaborate disguise. My own mask, a porcelain doll-like visage, seemed to take on a life of its own as I stepped into the opulent ballroom. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows upon the walls, creating an illusion of movement that played tricks on my mind. The haunting melody of a harpsichord filled the air, accompanied by laughter that seemed to ring with an unsettling echo. I wandered through the throng of guests, each encounter shrouded in secrecy and ambiguity. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew increasingly intoxicating, as if the mansion itself possessed a sinister allure. In the dimly lit corners, I caught glimpses of masked figures engaged in whispered conversations, their gestures and expressions veiled by secrecy. My curiosity got the better of me, and I approached a pair of masked guests engaged in a heated exchange. Their hushed words spoke of unspeakable secrets and forbidden desires, and I quickly retreated, unnerved by the darkness that lay beneath their disguises. It was as if the mansion had drawn them here, beckoning them to reveal their true selves amidst the anonymity of masks and shadows. As the night progressed, I felt a growing sense of unease, as if unseen eyes were watching my every move. I dismissed my fears as mere figments of an overactive imagination, blaming the eerie ambience of the party for my discomfort. Amidst the revelry, I encountered a masked woman who seemed to glide effortlessly through the crowd. Her mask depicted a raven with ruby eyes, and her haunting presence left me both captivated and unsettled. Her lips curled into a mysterious smile as she whispered, "Do you dare to dance with the unknown?" Her words sent a chill down my spine, and yet I found myself unable to resist her invitation. We twirled and swayed to the haunting melody, our movements fluid and ethereal. With each step, the ballroom seemed to blur, and reality merged with a surreal dreamscape. In that moment of enchantment, I glimpsed the truth. The mansion was a vessel for forgotten souls, trapped between worlds, and the guests were unwitting participants in a malevolent dance orchestrated by the unseen forces of the night. The raven-masked woman's eyes bore into mine, and a rush of memories flooded my mind, past lives entangled in the mansion's web of deceit and desire. The truth of the midnight masquerade was a horrifying revelation, an eternal purgatory where guests relived their darkest secrets, unable to break free from the mansion's grip. Fear seized my heart, and I tore myself away from the raven-masked woman, desperate to escape the mansion's clutches. Panic surged through my veins, and I stumbled through the throng of masked guests, my mind racing with fragmented memories and visions of forgotten sins. I reached the grand doors, my heart pounding, but as I pushed them open, the mansion seemed to shift, its walls closing in around me. The once grand ballroom now felt like a suffocating labyrinth, trapping me within its endless corridors. In a desperate bid for escape, I followed a dimly lit passage, the flickering candlelight casting macabre shadows on the walls. Each step felt like a descent into madness, and the walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. As I ventured deeper into the labyrinthine mansion, I encountered haunting sights, a room filled with broken mirrors that reflected twisted reflections, a chamber with eerie portraits that seemed to weep blood, and a hallway that echoed with ghostly whispers. The air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding, and I knew that the mansion itself was alive, a malevolent entity that fed on the souls of its unwitting guests. Its hunger for secrets and sins was insatiable, and I had become entangled in its web of darkness. In a desperate bid for survival, I followed a faint glimmer of moonlight, a sliver of hope amidst the darkness. The passage led to a hidden door, and with trembling hands I pushed it open, revealing the outside world. Fresh air filled my lungs, and I stumbled out of the mansion, leaving the haunting labyrinth behind. The mansion's grand facade now seemed like a facade hiding an unspeakable horror, one that lurked in the shadows, waiting to ensnare its next unsuspecting victim. The midnight masquerade was a night I would never forget, a night that would forever haunt my dreams. The mansion and its malevolent secrets would remain etched in my memory, a chilling reminder that some nightmares are all too real.